Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Couple of very important and developing stories. One is about the latest and the current briefing of the spokesperson of the Afghan Taliban government, where he announced about some very important ministries and positions that have been handed over to some very I would say powerful Afghan Taliban, and there is a list where Hebat Ullah Akhundzada is remaining as the supreme leader. Then you have Mullah Muhammad Hassan Akhund as the head of the government, and then Mullah Baradar as the number 2 or the deputy as you call it. Siraj Haqqani would be the interior, but he's going to be there for the temporary phase. And let's see, eventually he ends up having it permanently or not. And then Stanak Zaisab, who is again one of the spokesperson, again he has been assigned as the deputy foreign minister, whereas Mullah Amir Khan Saab has been appointed as the foreign minister. Now these are the major important top ministries now, and some names which we were thinking that might be heading certain ministries or certain portfolios, interestingly they have been made number 2s. And some other names which earlier we did not even hear much about, eventually they ended up becoming the head. But anyway, we wish them all the best in this particular regard. And secondly, we'll also be talking about the statement of the Chief of Army Staff, General Bajwa. As we all know that yesterday was the 6th of September, the Pakistan Defence Day, and there was a huge gathering in the General Headquarters Rawalpindi, where the President, the ministers, the senior military and civil leadership, they were also present there, along with the civilians and all the families of the Shuhada. They were there as well. A tribute was given to all those who have sacrificed their lives for the motherland. And that was a great function. And he did talk about the external threats, the internal threats, on top about the hybrid warfare, and something pretty interesting that is happening these days. That was actually happening before also, but now it is in the limelight. That is about the disinformation and the propaganda by the Indian channels. And it's not even serious, it's pretty funny. That is what we'll be talking about in our today's program. So before I introduce you to our guest panelists, let me quickly read out a couple of cards, actually the main punchline of our today's program. Mohit Yusuf, the National Security Advisor of Pakistan, says it is not a surprise that Modi's fascist regime fake news industry has been caught peddling lies yet again. The world will pay a heavy price if it continues to ignore India's destabilizing policies, consequences of which go well beyond the region. And then Mohit further stated that the fake news industry set up and patronized by the government of India was one critical reason for the world being duped into blaming Pakistan rather than looking at internal failures in Afghanistan and India's role in perpetrating terrorism in Pakistan. Michael Kugelman, the Deputy Director of Asia Program, who is also a very senior analyst, says that some Indian TV media have issued video game images. I mean, let me also tell you that it is a very interesting Arma 3 game, video game, in which a plane is attacking and there is this cross-firing. It was animated, by the way. They have shown that, interestingly, to depict the assault in Panjshir. This may sound zany for the uninitiated, and yet it's not the first time. Happened during the Balakot crisis, too, well back in 2019. Now, this person is someone who has a very neutral reputation. And furthermore, George Ellison, journalist editor at UK Defence Journal, says that Indian news channel Times Now has shared video footage it described as first visuals of the fighter jet, allegedly belonging to Pakistan, hovering over Panjshir Valley in Afghanistan. The trouble, it's an American jet flying through the Welsh valleys, and interestingly, that was an F-15 which Pakistan doesn't have. And furthermore, let me add something else also. There was another picture that was shown that one of the perhaps Pakistani F-16 was shot down. That wasn't even a Pakistani F-16. That particular jet, in fact, crashed in Colorado during an exercise that was an American F-16 Falcon. And interestingly, they were saying that this is the Pakistani F-16 that has been shot down. I mean, I fail to understand what's going on out there, what's brewing in the mind of the Indian media, but it's funny now. It seems as if, you know, there is this kind of frustration that's building up within the ranks of the Indian media and their government and their propaganda channels. But let me quickly now introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is our very dear friend Shauqat Paracha, senior journalist, senior analyst, and especially keeps a very close eye on the international issues and domestic foreign policy also. Thank you so much, Pracha, for your time, sir. And we have with us Dr. Ziaul Haq Saab, expert on foreign affairs. He's the director, Peace and Conflict Studies, CASS. Thank you so much, Haq Saab, for your time. And we also have with us Lieutenant General retired Raza Muhammad Khan Saab, who's a senior analyst, military defense strategist. General Saab, pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Sir, if you gentlemen allow me, sir, if I may put the first question to General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab. General Saab, coming to you and starting the show from you now, sir. Interestingly, what we have witnessed that the Taliban spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid Saab has finally announced the major ministries and the people who will be looking after those affairs, whether you talk about the Defense Ministry or the Interior Ministry or perhaps the Foreign Ministry, even the head of the state, and number two. Sir, were you expecting these names to be looking after these affairs, or do you believe that there is some sort of a change? Our expectations, or perhaps the general expectations of the analyst, are they different from that which has been announced? General Saab?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, I heard the news too. And I think they have appointed some people who were expected on these positions. They have also said that these appointments probably are going to be temporary. And what I can deduce from this is that probably this may be some kind of an interim setup which could look at the formation of a broad-based government. So one will have to wait and see. But because there was so far no government, since 15th of August, so there was a lot of pressure on the Taliban to form some kind of a government, and they have done that. And they, before that, they had already announced the governors of all the 34 provinces except Panjshir, which I think they will do now also, since they now have full control over that province also. Now the issue, of the UN sanctions on some of these leaders is there, and we will have to wait and see how does the West, the United States, the permanent members of the UN Security Council, they act, on some of these appointments. I hope that all those sanctions are now removed. And look, one can quote an example where there were domestic sanctions, US domestic sanctions, on charges of terrorism against him when he was not the prime minister. But the moment he became the prime minister of India, all those sanctions were immediately removed, and these were also a part of the Doha agreement between the Taliban and the United States, where they were promised that gradually but surely all the UN sanctions will eventually be removed. So I think that's a much awaited kind of an announcement, and we'll hope that after this announcement, I think greater peace and stability will return to Afghanistan.
Now, that is what we all hope and look forward to. Now, Paracha Saab, since during the last couple of months, you've been doing a lot of shows on the Afghan issue, and especially on the border and otherwise. And the kind of, I remember the way you actually portrayed about the sentiment of the people living on the bordering area, even before the Kabul fell. You gave us an idea that this is what is likely going to happen, and this is what exactly happened. Now, over here, sir, your own personal take, because we were all thinking that most likely the president would be, Habibullah is going to be the supreme leader, and then you have a whole system. Mullah Brother is going to be the main man calling the shots, but he has been declared as number 2 as far as the government is concerned. And then there are certain names which I earlier took. Any surprise or you believe that this is the perfect arrangement they could have done?
Thank you very much, and thank you for watching my shows that I
I'm a regular viewer, sir.
from different parts of the border area. I physically traveled there, and nobody was thinking at that time that it could happen so soon, so rapid.
Correct.
But I had the developments in my mind that I should go to the people, ask about upcoming events and how, because whether they are in Bajod or in Torkham or somewhere else, my fellow Pakistanis, they are very dear to me, and I always focus on their plight, their lives, and that motivated me to go there to ask that if this happens in Afghanistan, how it's going to affect them. Now, second part is very interesting, you see. There I could understand this interior will go to Haqqanis, because from the day one, from 15th of August, Anas Haqqani was looking after the security of Kabul and elsewhere. But I personally was thinking that since Mullah brother has been to all parts of the world, he negotiated with the Americans in Doha, as General Saab was talking about. He visited Moscow many times, he been to China, Tehran. He was here in Pakistan 2-3 times, having meetings. So it's a surprise, in fact, that he was deputy of the political commission, supreme leader, Amir Mullah Habatullah, and then there were different commissions headed by deputies, like Mullah Yaqub is today defense minister. He was the deputy for military commission, Similarly,
but Mullah Yaqub also has a lot of, he's aware of the ground realities also, because he was also looking after the structure over there at the ground level.
He is son of Mullah
Muhammad Umar, yes.
So you can well imagine his command, But this political task was with Mullah brother, in fact, you see. And Mullah brother still will be having a lot greater role to play. Then also is Mullah Sher Abbas Stanekzai. He was always seen with Mullah Umar brother, whether they are going to Doha, they are going to China, they are going to Tehran, they are going to Far East, Indonesia and Malaysia.
He was also one of the spokesperson, if I'm not
That's
wrong.
what I'm saying.
Other than Sohail Shaheen and Zabiullah.
And he is today the deputy foreign minister. The foreign minister is Mullah Amir Muttaqi. Again a surprise for me, And similarly, Mullah Badri is appointed as finance minister. He was expected, you see. But this cabinet, necessarily one thing is an interim cabinet. It's not a fully functional cabinet. Had it been a fully functional cabinet, then what is the broad-based phenomenon?
Exactly.
What is the
we hardly see anybody other than the Taliban in this.
Even Hikmat Yar is not there. Even Ustad Muhakkik, he is not there. Ustad Khalil Karimi is not there,
And he played a very important role.
Very important role. Hikmat Yar, Gulbuddin Hikmat Yar.
I remember he was in Pakistan when Kabul fell, if I'm not wrong.
Many of them, they were here. Eight people, Hikmat Yar was not here, but others were here. Ustad Muhakkik was here. Khalil Karimi was here. Then Masood brother was here. Ustad Muhakkik was here. So many people were here. You see, and they were here for 4 or 5 days, and then they went back. So where is Karzai today? Where is Abdullah today? Where is Rashid Dostam today? Where is Commander Ismail today? We have to wait. We have to wait, because if the Americans had signed in the agreement that they will remove the name from the terror list, so was done that there will be a broad-based government, That's also part of the agreement.
So you believe, Prasad, this is going to be a temporary phase, they'll sort out the issues first, and then we'll be talking about a broad-based government, an inclusive
There will be a very structural problem. For example, they met Karzai Saab, Hamid Karzai. Now, a person who has been president for twice, should I expect and should I ask him to serve as a housing minister or finance minister?
It doesn't look appropriate. Yes.
Similarly, Dr. Abdullah, he was once the foreign minister. Then he was elevated to chief executive. CEO, you see. And now if I ask him to work as a transport minister or aviation minister, these will be the problems. Secondly, since they were brought in by the Americans, and we used to say these are the puppets over there. They do not have a big following, they do not have structured political parties.
That's correct.
That Abdullah himself will not sit in the cabinet, he will nominate someone else, because from Tajik perspective then Ahmad Masood is a far more stronger leader, you know. Rashid Dostum has a following, you know, he has a military strength, but he will not be sitting in the cabinet, you know, under someone else. So broad based, and that explains
That's where Turkey would come into.
That also explains that Taliban took 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, that today they, so far there have been no government, and from today at least this government is there.
At least there is something.
And secondly, if they take oaths of their offices, under what constitution, under what law, under what terms of, whether they accept the current constitution? No. The very first thing that they oppose, that we do not accept this.
They'll have to do a lot of homework.
A lot of homework.
A lot of homework. So your take on the same point. How do you see this, the recent happenings in Afghanistan?
Thank you very much, sir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, we need to give them time. We need to give them time because they've been to war, and a very intense war, for over 20 years. There was no structure as such. And now they are trying to rebuild, recoup, and regroup themselves into a proper structure that would govern the state of Afghanistan. It's not going to be easy. Okay? So
Governing Afghanistan has never been easy.
No.
Throughout history, sir.
In this particular situation,
Yeah. That
where
makes
they've
a lot of
been
sense, yeah.
on a very, very intense war against a superpower. Okay? And it's only been 2-3 weeks now that they have overthrown the puppet government. So they have not been in government for even 1 day, let's say, in that sense, okay, legally. So they need time. They are slowly and gradually exposing their cards. Let's say today being day 1. As far as I am concerned, it's day 1.
So they took over Kabul on 15th, correct? And
That is
today
all
is the 7th. So
Yes.
means exactly 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
That is all right. That is all right. But taking over of Kabul was not the taking over of the administration of Kabul. It was the removal of that puppet government. The President Ashraf Ghani ran away himself. Isn't it? Taliban did not go and throw him out of the palace. Isn't it? He flew out himself. So, as far as I am concerned, it is their day 1.
Is
That
this their
now-
day 1?
Yeah. They started to show their card with the appointments, with the specific appointment. It will be a temporary phase. It may take 30 days before a full-fledged cabinet is announced. And like Paracha Sahab said, under what constitution? These things will have to be refined. And I'm sure there is a lot of talking going on behind the door. Because they had been fighting this war from the caves and the underground areas. They did not expose themselves.
So one quick comment, sir. So from being a rebel to being in a major part of the governance,
Absolutely.
that transition or that transformation, do you think that is going to be
It
the
will take time.
real test for the Taliban?
Absolutely. It has to be a test, isn't it? Till yesterday, let's say 3 weeks back, they were fighting, isn't it? They were fighting against somebody, whether it was the Ashraf Ghani's army or it was the American army, but they were fighting. Now they have to govern on those streets where they were fighting and hiding and fighting, hiding and fighting. So they need time. And if given the opportunity, and if the regional stakeholders, what they are trying at this time is to gain something from the regional countries. They know that Pakistan is always there at their back. What Taliban are trying is to gain support of China, Russia, Turkey, and Iran. As soon as they are confident about their support, you will see how they come out openly.
So you believe that a couple of, especially when you look at it, this particular month of September is going to be pretty important.
Absolutely.
So I mean the wait and see strategy, because how things really move from this point onwards, that is going to be pretty crucial.
Absolutely.
Now coming to you, General Saab, one important statement from the Chief of Army Staff. He did talk about the external threats. He mentioned about the internal threats we are facing. Today again, two Pak Army Jawans were martyred. Again, a few days back, rather a day back or so, there was another explosion in which precious lives were lost in Quetta when the FC checkpoint was targeted. I mean, this is something which still shows that there are sleeping cells inside Pakistan, and they can get activated whenever they want to. And this has been a very consistent phenomena, though it has come down as far as its magnitude is concerned. But generally speaking, I believe that it is still very much in control, but not 100%. Hybrid warfare, fifth generation warfare. We talk about non-kinetic means, sometimes kinetic means, sometimes smart power, sometimes soft power, sometimes we talk about all sorts of threats which are posed to Pakistan. Now, Jalsa, one important point, and that is about the disinformation spread by the Indians. Sir, it is to a level that it's so funny that sometimes they end up picking up clips from video games and they show as if Pakistani jets are bombing there and resistance is going on from the Northern Alliance. Sometimes they show an F-16 which actually crashed in Colorado. They said it crashed in Panjshir. Sometimes they would end up showing an F-15 which has double engine, showing as Pakistani jets pounding the Panjshir Valley. And said the whole world is laughing on them. I mean, what sort of this war hysteria that is brewing in their mind? What exactly is happening? Have they gone bonkers? Or do you believe that they have really lost the edge in Afghanistan and this fear factor is coming out in the form of these fake media news, sir?
Okay, first of all, one or two very brief comments on whatever has been said on the formation of the new government in Kabul. I think the present government, in whatever shape it may be, probably it will be better than the many regimes that we have been having in Afghanistan in the past, for the simple reason that they would not allow anyone, particularly India, to misuse the Afghan soil for terrorist activities against Pakistan or any other neighbor of Afghanistan. Of course, we will support them. We will support any of our neighbor, provided they address our concerns, our interests, and our interests are very clear. And the first interest is that any regime that is there in Afghanistan, they must respect the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. They must support our border control measures, which is fencing. They must be very, very serious and eager to get all their refugees back to their country. They should never ever attempt, to export their ideologies to any one of their neighbors, including Pakistan. So these are some of our major concerns, and I'm sure once these concerns are addressed, then Pakistan should have no hesitation to support any government that is in place in Afghanistan. Coming back, to the issue of the constitution, I think so far what they are doing is that they have declared that the Sharia is their constitution, and therefore probably till such time, a customary constitution comes into being, they are going to get their guidance from this because they've always been announcing that. Now, coming back to your question about the fifth generation warfare or the hybrid warfare, we have been seeing this, in our vicinity, and I think it was good that the Chief of the Army Staff appraised the nation and the senior leadership of the country who was sitting there. And this is not an assessment of one individual. Remember that this is the assessment of Pakistani institution, the armed forces institution, the institution of the Pakistan Army, and all the challenges and the threats were pointed out. And he talked of the external challenges, which includes conventional, space, nuclear, sub-conventional challenges. These are the conventional ones. And then he talked of the informational challenges like cyber attacks. If you're talking about propaganda warfare, disinformations, perception manipulation, discrediting the Pakistani government and its states, they've been doing so. Particularly, the focus was on discrediting the armed forces, the judiciary, the senior leadership of the country. They have been actually exploiting all our vulnerabilities, particularly, the sectarian divide here and the religious divide here. Also, they have been looking at targeting our national morale. And that is why, the main purpose there is to create a wedge between the masses and the state institutions, particularly the armed forces of Pakistan. And the army chief was very clear that they have failed the enemies of Pakistan. They have failed to do that, and in future also they will fail, because the government of Pakistan, the armed forces, and all our agencies are aware that this is going on. When it comes to the propaganda against what Pakistan may be doing in Afghanistan, as you very rightly pointed out, I think what is being done is most ridiculous, and they have tried this in the past also, and I think they have been ashamed on themselves, and I think they now need to stop that and put the devil to the shame. Uh, because this is important, and nobody is going to believe them in whatever propaganda they may be launching, against Pakistan, its institutions, or its armed forces. You made a mention now also of a number of other efforts by India, and all those efforts are actually targeted at weakening the will of the people of Pakistan, degrading their morale, and even trying to make the people question the foundations on which Pakistan was created, the raison d'etre of the country. And the army chief also pointed out that they are using innocent Pakistani people, and some may not be as innocent, for their nefarious designs. So I think the people of Pakistan need to be aware of all these, and there is this one tool available to every one of us, and which is our mobile, and we have the whole world in our palm, and there is this WhatsApp. So we need to be very careful in actually sharing this kind of propaganda with groups and with friends and family, and we need to check the authenticity of all messages, videos like that. And I think that is one response which the people of Pakistan can help, in the other sort of response options of the
That's
government
correct.
of Pakistan.
All right. Now, Raza, another very important statement from the Chief of Army Staff. Obviously, he was talking about that, from a very geostrategic point of view, then we are moving towards a geopolitical, and then from geopolitical to geoeconomics. It's a very lengthy process, sir. A lot of hindrances, a lot of issues would be there, sir. It's not that simple, obviously, and especially once this area has been in turmoil for so long, whether you talk about the Soviet invasion or you talk about the US invasion for that matter. How difficult that path is for us, sir?
First thing first, you were talking of propaganda. Today we have three statements or three perspectives that exonerate Pakistan from this propaganda. For example, Colorado plane,
Yeah.
So it's not that we are clarifying, they
are
themselves
doing it, yeah.
clarified. UK Defence Journal, they have tweeted, they have made a statement that this plane was flying in Wales, not in Panjshir, for example, you see. And the third is just now, Zabiullah Mujahid, he was also talked, and he talked at length. He said it's nothing that Pakistan has done in the Panjshir Valley, that these were our people, And he spoke, I was just very keenly listening to him, and he spoke very eloquently about this perspective.
Raza, if I may add here something else also, because I was one of the shows of Arnab Goswami. Okay, so and then I
So you are the
gave
royal,
him his piece of
you
mind.
are a royal guest there.
Yeah, I was a royal guest. So, but the royal guest ended up, really, looking after his affairs also.
Yeah.
The interesting part that he was saying that, the corps commander Peshawar was there, and then the SSG head was there, and then your DGI was there conducting this, and the Pakistan Air Force. And then he said there were a couple of, units of the armored corps that were moved. Just imagine, look at the area and look at the statement. And 155 mm guns were used, and F-16s bombed. They were creating a Bollywood scenario.
Exactly. In fact, they are misleading their own people.
That is
they
what
are
the point is, yeah.
disinforming their own people. General Saab is talking about false propaganda. They are in fact befooling their own people, you see. I mean, fall of Kabul and advent of Taliban now in the government, which is after 3 weeks. Before that, Indian footprint was far more than Pakistani one.
Absolutely.
So what they were doing over there? What was $5 billion or over $5 billion investment for what, So these are the questions. And
Choke
secondly,
Pakistan, that was the agenda.
Secondly, it's a hybrid war or fifth generation war. It's a global phenomenon. Every country is, unleashing these instruments or technology, this latest technology or information, What happened with the disinfo lab exposed by EU, that all propaganda against Pakistan, fake interviews, fake talk shows, fake documentaries, fake articles. But what happened? That it was the flash on their mouth, that they were basically engaged in false propaganda. Now, coming to your question about geoeconomics, I think for the last 4 or 5 years, the leadership in Pakistan, especially I really commend General Bajwa Saab, COS, that he been trying to energize this concept that geopolitics and geostrategic compulsions have been there, and we've been revolving around these strategies. But for the people of the country, for normalization of relation with your neighbor, with the region or beyond region, that's very important, very, very important. And when you say that Afghan scenario has been a troublesome, I think that trouble is gone now. The Soviet invasion, era of Soviet invasion is gone now. The NATO, the American troops, ISAF troops, they have also seen what can happen over there.
Europeans are talking about making their own military, not NATO, their own defenses, because they do not trust the Americans anymore, especially after this episode.
So these phenomenon, which could be a fairy tale 20 years back or 30 years back, now they have turned to a reality. The reality is, which is the ground reality, that Taliban, they have proven a formidable force, and they will have their say in coming years and decades, The good thing is that their spokesman, who is deputy minister again, instead of being a full minister, Zabiullah Mujahid, he hinted the other day that Afghanistan wants to be part of CPAC. And what is CPAC?
Yes.
CPAC is flagship of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative.
Correct.
This Belt and Road Initiative is future of the world, future of this region. And if Afghanistan becomes part of it, there are excellent roads inside Afghanistan. From Jalalabad, for example, Pakistan built this road. Jalalabad, Peshawar, from Kabul to Madar Sharif and then to across Amu River to Uzbekistan, very good road. And similarly from Herat to Iran,
all the way there,
all
in
the
the
way.
west.
And there is another road, very, very good road. From Herat, one is towards Iran, the other is north up to Turkmenistan. Excellent road, excellent road. 425 kilometers from Jalalabad to Uzbekistan, to Tashkent, you see. 425 kilometers almost from Islamabad to Lahore. So you can imagine, if the road is kept in good condition, whole of Pakistan
Half day's travel, not
is
even
connected. Whole of Pakistan is connected to Uzbekistan, and in Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, the Soviet era network, road and rail network is excellent. So very important is that there is an inclusive government inside Afghanistan. Taliban has to take the initiative, they have to have parleys with others, they need to bring them in their government so that there is peace over there. The spoilers will always try, they are already trying. We should not think, and sit idle that nobody will harm our interest or Taliban's interest. No. They will keep on pinching, like when Taliban took over, so many countries' interest, they feel that they have endangered or they are over. Similarly, Taliban must realize it, that Afghanistan is their country. The ground reality is that they are masters, they have formed the government today. But non-Taliban, non-Pashtuns, they are also Afghans. Tajiks are 25%.
10% Uzbeks, you just end up.
You cannot turn blind eye to 25% of the population. And at the moment, the good thing is, at the moment, everyone is willing to join. Even Ahmad Masood was also talking yesterday that we want to be part of it. Everyone will try to.
What would be the future of Amrullah Saleh?
He is nothing, non-entity, you see. I mean, when I say Tajik, I mean Ahmad Masood.
Masood, okay.
He is the leader.
The Pancheris.
Even Dr. Abdullah doesn't carry that much following as Ahmad Masood is carrying.
Dr. Abdullah was the gunman of his father.
Whatever that is.
The point is that obviously the kind of stature this
so
family
Amrullah
has.
Saleh, these are the characters, these are the individuals. They have no weight at all. The weight is of Ahmad Masood, the weight is of Ustad Muhakkik, Karim Khalili, Hikmat engineer Gulbuddin Hikmat Yar, Hizb Islami. These people, they should bring back Commander Ismail. Why he is Afghan? Why should he taking refuge in Iran or somewhere else? So a true broad-based government, always there is give and take.
All right, sir. So your take on the same point. So future of Afghanistan. Let's say if you look at it from today onwards, sir, how long do you believe that things can settle down? I mean, a couple of names which were earlier just taken by our friend Raza Saab, Muhammad Ismail for that matter. This man had a foot soldier power of around 6,000 to 7,000. They all surrendered. Exactly. Again, there are so many. Uzbekistan you're talking about. Again, Rashid Dostum, who has a lot of backing from the Turk side also. He basically. This gentleman as well as Ahmad Shah Masood, both were Turkmen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, this relationship also is going to have a lot of effect because the Turkish influence, I mean, they will not stop it, sir. It doesn't stop there. Let's talk about that.
Sir, I think, as I said before also in my yesterday's piece in Daily Times, I have coined a new foreign relations terminology, that is productive engagement. There is a need to have productive engagement instead of just photo sessions. Okay? Why? Why do I say that? Because it is mutually beneficial. And as we are talking about all inclusive government in Afghanistan, and perhaps that was one condition in Doha Agreement signed on 29 February 2020. So that Taliban will have to do in perhaps next 30 days. Because if they need recognition, if they need legitimacy to their governance and administration, they will have to comply with those conditions on which the agreement was signed. And this was one. And Pakistan also, Pakistan government continues to maintain that an all-inclusive Afghan government. And Talibans are Afghans. Okay? Turkmen who are living in Afghanistan for ages are Afghans. As Faisal said,
they have a similar border like us, in fact.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying, that Taliban will have to go towards that side. And if they follow this terminology of productive engagement within themselves and within the states of the region.
I think that is also the need of the hour, sir.
It will have to be done. Yes. It will have to be done. Because without that, if they do not oblige that agreement, they will have problem in getting the international recognition, which is very important. Because last time in 96 Taliban government, this is the mistake that they made. They never got the recognition.
Yeah, only three countries did. But
Only
this
three
time, sir,
countries
it
left.
seems that Qatar, along with Turkey, Pakistan, Iran,
China, Russia, two greater powers, you
that
know.
is going to be pretty interesting.
This is what they are aiming for, isn't it? They are striving to get the legitimacy from the regional countries. They are not vying for it from the United States or
Because,
from
sir,
the European Union.
I believe, sir, Afghanistan always had a regional, if
Solution.
the regional solution and the regional
Always.
approach was missing, unfortunately. The moment they poured in their ideas, things got streamlined and
Actually,
everything got
what
settled.
Pakistan did was this time, Pakistan, Alhamdulillah, has played beautiful this time. They did not make, if I may be allowed to use, 1.5 ईंट की मस्जिद नहीं बनाई. They went all inclusive, involved all the regional stakeholders. China, who never involved in any of such issues, isn't it? They got
They have
China
their own
on board.
interest. Russians have their own.
They got
Sir,
China
at the
on
end of
board.
the day, it's all about the interest of those countries.
Absolutely, but you have to bring them
All
towards
right.
the mutual interest.
All right.
Only then you gain support. Otherwise, you
All
will
right,
not
sir.
be
So
able to-
anyway, sir, since I'm running out of time, but thank you so much for your presence, sir. Raza, was a pleasure
Thank
having
you.
you.
Thank you.
And great to have you too, sir. Jalal Saab, thank you so much for your time as well. And that's all we have for this up. I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.